Hello, I'm Zara, and welcome to Reset, the Mindset Makeover Show, giving you the tools you need to elevate your life, career, and income all on your own terms. Welcome to Reset Fundamental. Today, we're launching part 1 of our e-commerce basics capsule. In the first portion of this capsule, you'll learn how to understand key metrics for running an e-commerce business, and how to use these metrics to improve your sales. First up, we'll describe a few key metrics and how you can potentially use them. We'll start with some of the ones you may be the most familiar with. Let's start with the first part. You find a website, you go online and you go, I want to go to theresetshow.com. But for some reason, it's taking forever to load. Because of that, you click off automatically. Now, what have you just done? You've bounced. That is one of the key e-commerce metrics, which is bounce rate. How often and how quickly people do that is an evaluation of your site performance. So the more frequently people bounce from your site without actually viewing a page or doing anything, and how quickly they do it, is insight for you in terms of things you can do to help improve your site. So higher bounce rates. Anything, I would say the average bounce rate in general for an e-commerce site is anywhere between like 45 and 60%. So if you fall within that, it's not outstanding, but you're not an anomaly. Now, if you're above that, that means a significant number of people coming to your site are doing nothing when they're there and they're leaving automatically. Now, statistically, one of the number one reasons for this is a slow loading time. And this could be because of on the back end, how your site is set up, which is something that we'd have to get into in another conversation. It could be the size of the images on your site. It could be because they're on mobile and you haven't optimized your site for mobile. So there could be multiple factors impacting this. It could also be low quality images once your site loads. It could be that it's confusing what the content is versus what people thought they were getting. Or it could just be that they're like, oh gosh, I forgot to do something and bounce away. You never know what might be causing that, but it is an indication to check a few things. And by getting it closer to that normal or the lower end of that normal range, or even below that, is a good indication that when people come to your site, they're there intentionally and there's some specific information they're seeking that they hope you can provide. Now, let's get back online. We're online again. And we go to a site. We'll go to the Reset Show merch. We go to the merch and we're looking through, we click on a product and we put it in the cart. It's in the cart. You go to your cart and you purchase, click. Voila, you have just converted a customer. Now, what does that mean? Conversion represents the percentage of people who go to your site and finalize that experience with a transaction. It's a calculation that says number of actual sales divided by the amount of traffic you get. That percentage is an indication of how well you convert. Now, you might be shocked to know that the average online conversion rate is only 2.75%. That sounds crazy, right? But really what that means is there are lots of people going to lots of sites, but they're not necessarily becoming customers. Anything above that is a really solid rate. Anything below that, you know you definitely have work to do on how you can get a customer from someone who visits, who may not even know of you. So we talked about conversion, bounce rate, and all of these were related to one key metric that we haven't talked about that much, and that is traffic. Now, traffic sounds like exactly what it is. It's how many people are coming to your site. Now, there's good traffic, which is typically traffic that engages with the key content that you want to have on your site, whether it's somebody inputting an email, you building your email list, or it's somebody converting and making a purchase. And then there are other types of traffic that, while it's great in terms of you having more traffic and increasing awareness of who you are, it may not necessarily be converting in a way that's productive for you. That's why I always say that people cannot look at traffic in a bubble or inside of a box. But you get what I'm saying. Essentially, traffic is more than just a number of people who come to your site. So here are a few other things you want to consider when you think about your traffic. So one thing is, we already talked about conversion. So we know in general, of all of the people who visit your site, how many of them convert to customers. But there are other things like traffic sources. Are there specific sources of traffic that yield more positive conversion incomes than others? So different sources of traffic could be direct. It could be from social media like Facebook and Instagram. It could be via different Google search terms. There are so many places that traffic comes from, but understanding where the traffic comes from and how the traffic from those specific sources perform on your website gives you an indication of where you should devote resources and how you can best use those resources to create more converting customers. So here's an example. Let's say you're looking at your traffic sources and you realize that the conversion rate for your customers who arrive at your site from Google using a key search term that's like the main part of who you are, for instance, they convert at a rate of 5%. Whereas the traffic that comes to your site from your Instagram account, the conversion rate is 0.1%. Now, what does this mean? It might mean, well, first off, you want to consider how much traffic is coming from either source first. So let's assume the traffic quantity is the same, but the conversion is significantly different. What you know here is that you've probably done a great job with SEO. I'll explain that later, which is why Google is driving people to your site who are targeted people who are great at converting. Whereas you might either not be doing the best job with your social, or the people who engage with you on social media are not people who would be customers, which might mean you need to either revamp your social media strategy or devote fewer resources to that specific channel if you're limited in resources and have to make choices about where to make shifts. Now, to skip back to SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization. It's how you've optimized your site and really anything digital that tells about who you are so that it directs people back to your site and hopefully helps them to convert. Typically, if you're generating higher conversion rates from people who come to your site from Google, it means you've really landed that connection between what are people searching for and what are the keywords on my site that align with that get them there. There are a few other key metrics, and I'll touch on these briefly, and we can talk about them in more detail in some of the other capsules. But one is the value per visit. So value per visit is essentially your total sales for a specific amount of time divided by your total amount of traffic for that same period of time. It gives you an idea of how productive is the traffic that you're receiving. So the higher that amount is, it just means it doesn't necessarily mean multiple people are purchasing a lot. It could mean a few customers are purchasing a lot, and it helps to increase that number. Regardless, what you want to keep in mind, and the higher that is, the more valuable it is to you and your website. Another metric that's, I would say, if you're more of a content-driven site, this is almost more important than if your site is really driven by retail. So the distinguishment here would be if you're a blog, if you provide a service, and you want people to spend time on your site consuming the resources that are there, or if you're a social media site and you make money off of keeping people there, like YouTube or Facebook. So the session duration is how long you stay there, like this or like this. The longer you stay there, the higher the duration. For retail sites, I'll look up some average metrics and see if I can include them in here. But for instance, for my wellness brand, the average session duration is around like a minute and a half. And usually people go on the site, they find what they want, they order it and they're done, or they leave. And that's it for a retail site. Whereas one of my more content-focused sites, the session duration is longer because people are reading articles and engaging with us in that way. And then the last metric that we'll discuss today in this just e-commerce basic metrics is click-through rate, or CTR. So a click-through rate is actually more related to online advertising, or it might be something that you use it if you have specific buttons or something on your site. But essentially it's an indication of the number of people who see that page or see that ad, how many of them click through to where you want them to go. So let's say on your landing page you have a shop now button. The rate at which people see that and click through it would be an indication to you whether or not it's effective or helpful for your site. Another thing might be if you decide to run an ad on any platform. The rate at which people click through to that helps you to understand the effectiveness of your ad in getting people to perform the desired action that you want. All right, so I know that was quite a bit today. I went through a few things. Just as a reminder, these are the things that we discussed today. We discussed bounce rate, that's going to a site, and how much you stay there versus bouncing away. We discussed conversion, which means you go to the site, you click, you buy something, you purchase. If you don't, your conversion rate is lower. If the customer does, the conversion rate is higher. Another thing we discussed is traffic. All traffic is not created equal. You want to understand where your traffic is coming from, how traffic from different sources performs, and then overall, how does that impact your site conversion? We also talked about average session and how the importance of this will vary depending on the type of site, whether it's a retail site or more of a content-driven site. Depending on the site, will determine how important it is to you for the average session to be longer or shorter. The other thing to consider is you just really need to understand your customer. If you're a content site and how you make money is off of advertising, you want people to be there. If you're a retail site and you make money off of selling products, you want to make it easy for people to complete that transaction as quickly as possible. Next up, we talked about the value per visit. And that really helps you to understand how valuable is it each time someone visits your site. And that's also a function of understanding how much your typical customer spends or how much ad revenue you can typically expect to generate from people visiting your site. And this can vary greatly because it's a function of people who convert the way you want and the amount of traffic. So as these shift, these numbers shift, but generally you want it to be higher and then have an understanding of what influences it. And then lastly is click-through rate. You just want to ensure that your click-through rate is improving, or identify and learn from how you use different buttons or ads. Figure out which ones have the higher click-through rates and repeat those steps, that process, that ad design, so that you can emulate those results in future ads. All right. That's it. I hope the review was helpful, as well as just an overview of these different e-commerce metrics. Comment below and let me know what are some challenges you're having in understanding e-commerce metrics. Otherwise, look forward to our future capsules where we'll share more about e-commerce, how to effectively build your website and use it to generate sales and income for your business. We'll also include a link in the description box below for my consulting site where we wrote an article on some active actions that you can take today to help improve your site conversion. Until next time, I'm Zara, and thank you for watching Reset, the Mindset Makeover Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.